لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهداه إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. So this is a new lesson on our commentary on السياسة الشرعية في إصلاح الراعي والرعية. That was written by شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية رحمه الله تبارك وتعالى. To talk about today. So the people that are led are ordered to advise and obey the orders of the leaders. Okay? Now the new chapter is about the trustees, and this is the second part of the trustees, which are the financial trustees. It says فصل القسم الثاني من أمانات الأموال كما قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في الديون فإن أمن بعضكم بعضا فليؤدي الذي اؤتمن أمانته. Trust each other, so everyone has to give the trustee to who it owns. وليتق الله ربه. الفصل الأول ما يدخل في باب الأموال. الفصل الثاني أصناف الأموال السلطانية. الفصل الثالث ظلم الولاة والرعية. فصل وجوه صرف الأموال. The first chapter, what has to do with the financial statements? What is that? Second chapter, what are the kinds of the government's payments? Third chapter, how do the governors and the lawyers and stuff like that, how do they deal, or how they become unfair in treating people or in dealing with the financial statements? And the fourth chapter is, where are we supposed to make those payments? Where are those payments supposed to be paid? Okay, so these are 4 chapters that are very important for everybody to know. And he says here الفصل الأول ما يدخل في باب الأموال. Financial statements. ويدخل في هذا القسم الأعيان والديون الخاصة والعامة، رد الودائع ومال الشريك والموكل والمضارب وما ونحو ذلك. That is in the hands of people, and the debts. And when we're talking about the debts, the global debts or the debts that are referred to everybody, and the debts that are referred to the whole government. Anyone who you have to pay him, you have to give him back his payments. One more, please. for your partner. For anyone that's to take care of your stuff. I mean, somebody who is your successor or something like that. And the money of your partner that you give him money to work on, so he works and you give the money. So he's a kind of partner. And all property that has to do with orphans and al-waqf, people who make the money for the pleasure of everybody. Waqf, how do you call the waqf? إن الإنسان خلق هلوعا إذا مسه الشر جزوعا وإذا مسه الخير منوعا إلا المصلين الذين هم على صلاتهم دائمون والذين في أموالهم حق معلوم للسائل والمحروم إلى قوله سبحانه وتعالى والذين هم لأماناتهم وعهدهم راعون والذين هم بشهاداتهم قائمون, etc. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says mankind is always afraid. He's always afraid. If any evil thing happens to him, he goes so crazy. And if anything good happens to him, he's mazer and he doesn't pay his payments. Except the ones who pray. Regular prayers properly. And the ones that know that there are types of payments that they are ordered to pay in the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or by the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the one who asks and for the needies. Until the verses go on, this is Surah Al-Ma'arij, until the verses go on to the verse that says, and the ones who pay their trustees and take care of their oaths, fulfill their oaths. وقال سبحانه وتعالى إن أنزلنا إليك الكتاب بالحق لتحكم بين الناس بما أراك الله ولا تكن للخائنين خصيما. I have revealed to you the book in truth so that you can judge between people by the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired you, and don't dispute for the betrayers. And أي لا تخاصم عنهم. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أد الأمانة إلى من ائتمنك ولا تخن من خانك. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم says, give the trustee to the one that gave it to you and considered you as a trustworthy person, and don't betray the one who betrayed you. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله. So this hadith is and others. And the Prophet ﷺ said, المؤمن من أمنه المسلمون على دمائهم وأموالهم والمسلم من سلم المسلمون من لسانه ويده والمهاجر من هجر ما نهى الله عنه والمجاهد من جاهد نفسه في ذات الله. This hadith Al-Mu'min means the believer. Is the believer only that person that you see him praying and crying when he recites Quran or something like that? No. He says, Al-Mu'min, the believer, is the one that people or that Muslims are to kill them or to take their properties. One, that they know he is not going to harm them. So this is a real mu'min. Second thing, what is a Muslim? Muslim means submitter. But here Muslim means the one that all Muslims by his tongue or his hand. So pay attention that he says al-mu'min man amina, al-muslim man salima. Al-muhajir, who is the immigrator? Man hajara ma naha Allah an, that leaves all things that Allah forbid. So anything that Allah forbid, he doesn't go back to things. He doesn't go to those things. Wal-mujahid, the real mujahid, struggler, the one that struggles against his man hajara man jahada nafsahu fi dhatillah, struggles against his soul in the sake of Allah, his desires in the sake of Allah. You see? So these are the real meanings of these words. A sign of praying, and he's mashallah in the first row in the masjid, and he always fasts and does a lot of good things like that. And then when it comes to business, he forgets about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as if there is no Allah there. There is no orders. He can just take this property of this guy. He can cheat this guy in his work. He can do things, and without any sincere doing, he can do a lot of bad things, and he considers that a part. That's a kind of secular. It's a kind of secular things instead of of life. You're just understanding Islam as images and acts. من أخذ ذات الله وهو حديث صحيح بعضه في الصحيحين وبعضه في سنن الترمذي. This is an authentic hadith, and some of it is in the two authentic books, and some of it is in Sunan الترمذي. وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم من أخذ أموال الناس يريد أداءها أداها الله عنه ومن أخذ يريد إتلافها أتلفه الله. رواه البخاري. Anyone who takes the property of people, he wants to give it back to them, Allah will help him do that. But if he takes it and he wants only to spoil it, Allah will spoil him. وإذا كان الله قد أوجب أداء الأمانة ففيه تنبيه على وجوب أداء الغصب والسرقة والخيانة ونحو ذلك من المظالم وكذلك أداء العارية. وقد خطب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في حجة الوداع وقال في خطبته العارية مؤداة والمنحة مردودة والدين مقضي إن الله قد أعطى كل ذي حق حقه فلا وصية لوارث. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked us way from people, that we have to take back and give all properties that were taken in a wrong way to all people that they ask for, that demand for. For example, anybody who took something from somebody without his permission and just grabbed it from him, so he has to give it back to him. You're not allowed to take something from somebody without his permission. Anything that was stolen, you stole it from somebody and he doesn't know, or you stole it from him in a way that he trusted you, but you didn't fulfill his trust. So all these kinds of property that you took by grabbing it from people, by breaking your trust, by stealing, you have to give it back. Somebody as a trust, so that he borrowed it. Ista'ara minni, that means he borrowed from me. Ista'ara minni. So the ariya is anything that is borrowed. For example, please, I want you to borrow me this pen so that I can write with it something. So I have to give it back to you. Please, I want to borrow your car to do some job with it, and I'll give it back to you in the end of the day. Okay, thank you very much. You give him the car. This is the key. In the night, he has to give it back to you. Here, and all things that were taken in an unfair way have to go back to who they refer to. Anything. Now, this is the responsibility of the governors, and it's the responsibility of anybody that has a responsibility in anywhere. You're responsible in the house, you have to make that between the people inside your house, your children, anybody that you have authority on them in the house. You are responsible in a school. You have to give all rights to the ones that are under your authority in the school. You are responsible in a city, in a government, in a whole state, in the world. These are things that you are responsible for. So, and anything that is borrowed, it has to go back to the one that borrowed it from you. And the Prophet ﷺ in Hajjat al-Wada', the farewell speech, he said, according to due to Abu Dawood and Imam Ahmad in an authentic hadith, he said that the things that are borrowed have to go back to who they own, who they are owned, they refer to. Ram, camel, etc., to just drink from its milk, you have to give it back to him. Or, for example, he gave you a bottle or a plate or something, you have to give it back to him. Debts have to be paid. These debts have to be paid. And the responsible who claims that he would, for example, the court is asking for somebody and they want somebody to guarantee him, you have to fulfill that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave everyone his rights. So every right has to go back to who it refers to. And there is no bequeath to any heir. Is this proper? Is this translation proper? There is no bequeath, no will to somebody who inherits you. Any heir is not allowed to have a will. Of course, he's not allowed to have any will except if the others agree. All other heirs agree about that because that's their rights. But if they don't agree, that is their rights. No one is allowed to write anything as a will to somebody who inherits them. This is so clear, alhamdulillah. Long commentary about all those things. Actually, we can't go passing on all those if we want to finish in 10 lectures. 10 lectures, we can't go on. Look, because this is the fourth lesson, and look, we still are here. We still didn't even finish a lot of things. I'm trying to manage that. So, commentary on it, yeah. طيب. قال وهذا القسم يتناول الولاة والرعية، فعلى كل منهما يؤدي إلى الآخر ما يجب إليه أداؤه، فعلى ذي السلطان ونوابه في الإعطاء أن يؤتوا كل ذي حق حقه، وعلى جباة الأموال كأهل الديوان أن يؤدوا إلى ذي السلطان ما يجب إيتاؤه إليه، وكذلك على الرعية الذين يجب عليهم الحقوق، وليس للرعية يطلب من ولاة الأموال ما لا يستحقون، من جنس من قال الله تعالى فيهم ومنهم من يلمزك في الصدقات فإن أعطوا منها رضوا وإن لم يعطوا منها إذا هم يسخطون، ولو أنهم رضوا ما أتاهم الله ورسوله وقالوا حسبنا الله سيؤتينا الله من فضله ورسوله إن إلى الله راغبون، ثم بين سبحانه وتعالى لمن تكون بقوله إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين وعاملين عليها ومؤلفة قلوبهم في الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل فريضة من الله والله عليم حكيم. He says this, or these kinds of payments that we just talked about concern everybody, the governors, the leaders, and the people who are led. So every one of them has to fulfill his payments and to give the rights to whom they refer to. President and all who are with him, which is the government actually, give all payments to whom they refer to. Now, for example, the citizens, they have to take their payments. Everybody has to take the payment that he deserves. They are not allowed to stop any payments from anybody unless there is something according to the law that prevents them from taking their payments. Okay? Now, the people who are led have to pay their payments as well. They have to pay, for example, their debts. The government is demanding for example, the zakats. They have to pay their zakats. They have to pay all the things that they are asked to pay. Official payments, not payments that are extra and that are not fair. I'm talking about the official payments that are referred to, that are under the Islamic law. People, the public, are not allowed to demand for something that is over their payments, over their rights. You can't just go and say, well, I demand for so-and-so, let us struggle, let us protest, we want the government to pay us so-and-so, which is not, where did you get that payment from? But the problem is what? What happens? The problem is that the leaders give themselves rights and payments, and they monopolize a lot of things for their interest, and they don't give the public any rights. They just ask from them rights without giving them extra rights. So that's not fair, and that's the thing that causes a lot of problems and makes the public rebel against the leaders and demand for things that they gave themselves to. So this is the problem. When does the problem happen? The problem happens always when the leaders are not just. So being unjust causes any government or state a lots of problems. But when the leaders are just, people love them and pray Allah for them. There's a very common story story of Umar radiallahu anhu that there was an ambassador of Persia that came to meet him. And he used to hear about Umar, Amir al-Mu'mineen, that leads half of the world, and he's the caliph of a great empire, and people shiver from his name and from his soldiers, these mujahideen, the stuff like that. So he went searching for him in Medina. When he reached to Medina, he asked for the palace of Umar. So people told him, Umar doesn't have any palace. You can just find him here or there sleeping. He went, all of a sudden he found somebody sleeping wearing a very humble clothes that is torn from some places and just sewed from there. And then he just slept by putting a bunch of just gathering some sand and putting it as how do you call it? A pillow and sleeping on it. He was so shocked. He said, "What is this? Is this Umar?" He said, "Yeah, this is Amir Umar." He said, Ya Umar. Aminta. You were just. So, you were from anybody because you're just. You gave everybody his rights. So you slept. You're not afraid. You don't need soldiers. You don't need etc. But our leader doesn't sleep because he's not just. Our leader, who is Khosrow, the leader of the Persian Empire, can't sleep like that unless he's in his room in his palace with soldiers and people, guardians and stuff like that. They deserve. Okay, this isn't in general, actually, because there are a lot of people who never get satisfied, and people who imitate others, and people who never like anything, and people who hate just governors, and they want them to give them more things that they claim that it's their rights. So it's not something. This is in general, not something that is always like that. Well, and you know that Umar was killed in the end from somebody who claimed that he was unjust to him. Abu Lu'lu al-Majusi claimed that Umar was unjust to him. Well, actually, Umar was so just to him. Okay. He says that when you demand for something that you don't deserve, you are going to be like those munafiqun who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about them in Surah At-Tawbah, and some of them start mocking you about the charities. If you give them from the charities, they're satisfied, but if you don't give them, they're not satisfied, and they get so angry. But if they agree about what Allah and His Prophet gave them, and His Messenger gave them, and they said, we are satisfied and it's enough for us because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would give us from His bounty and His Messenger, and we are asking from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala His bounty, until He says the charities are for. Now, who are the people who deserve the charities? They are the poor guys, the needies, and the people who are responsible for the citizens that are working on that, and the ones that you want to soften their hearts to follow Islam. And the slaves the slaves that you can pay the payments to free them, and the ones who gave big payments to fix the situation between two groups, so they paid it from their pockets, so they are allowed to take from the money of zakat. The people who struggle in the sake of Allah, and somebody who was traveling and he couldn't reach to his country and he needs some money. Who deserve the charity, to take from the charities or the money of the governments. ولا لهم أن يمنعوا السلطان ما يجب دفعه من الحقوق وإن كان ظالما كما أمر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ذكر جور الولاة فقال أدوا إليهم الذي لهم فإن الله سائلهم عما استرعاهم. ففي الصحيحين عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كانت بنو إسرائيل تسوسهم الأنبياء كلما هلك نبي خلفه نبي وإنه لا نبي بعدي وسيكون خلفاء ويكثرون. قالوا فما تأمرنا؟ قال أوفوا ببيعة الأول في الأول سائلهم عما استرعاهم. Here, they're not allowed to not pay the government payments unfair, as long as the payments are payments that are official. So even if it's not fair, that's not your responsibility. Because the Prophet ﷺ, when he talks about unfair governors, he said, give them what they ask you, because Allah is going to ask them about that. So it's not your responsibility. Allah will deal with them. And that doesn't mean you are forced to pay them unfair payments, because sometimes there are some governors or some leaders that demand for something that they're not allowed to demand for. So that doesn't mean you have to give them your property. And I'm talking about governors that are Muslim, but they're corrupted. So they are Muslim, the official law is Islam, but they are corrupted. So these guys, you are forced to pay them your payments like the zakat and stuff like that, and you're not allowed to say, well, actually they're not just, they're bad guys, they're stuff, I won't pay it to them. No, that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to pay them those payments. And the Prophet ﷺ said, the Israelites, the children of Israel, were led by prophets. Every prophet dies, another prophet comes. And there will be caliphs. Caliphs here means leaders. Or messenger of Allah. مَا تَأْمُرُنَا فَقَالَ, he said, fulfill the pledge of every one of them, the first, then the second. Then give them their rights. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask them about what is their responsibility. What are their responsibilities? Allah is going to ask them about their responsibilities. In Bukhari and Muslim وفيهما عن ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إنكم سترون بعدي أثر وأمورا تنكرونها. قالوا فما تأمرنا يا رسول الله؟ قال أدوا إليهم حقهم واسألوا الله حقكم. You are going to see after me the Islamic law, and you won't like. So they said to him, what do you order us, O Messenger of Allah? He said, give them their rights and ask Allah for your rights. Why did he say this? Why didn't he say, go and struggle for your rights and demand for it and even fight against these nasty guys? Why didn't he say that? And usually, when people go doing that, what happens? The governors go and become more stubborn and they don't give them the rights. So that causes to make people or the public rebel against their leaders. And that makes the state weak because it starts fighting against each other. And the enemies will come and take everything. And that happened several times in the Ummah. Of course, the first responsible for that are the leaders. Because they weren't just. They didn't follow the right path. They didn't follow the law that they were responsible to follow. They were untrustworthy people. Okay? وليس لولاة الأمور أن يقسموها بحسب أهوائهم كما يقسم المالك ملكه أو ملكه فإنما هم أمناء ونواب ووكلاء. وليسوا ملاكا قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إني والله لا أعطي أحدا ولا أمنع أحدا وإنما أنا قاسم أضع حيث أمرت. رواه البخاري عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه نحوه. He says the lawyers or the governors or the leaders are not allowed to just give these money and distribute them according to their desires, because they are responsible and they are successors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put them there to fulfill His law. Do with it whatever they want. Now there are some governors or leaders, when you ask them, says, well, this is our country, this is our state, and this is our responsibility, so we do whatever we want. No, that's not true. You're there because people elected you and chose you to fulfill the law that all of us have to follow. And you are doing that job instead of everybody there. So you are responsible in the eye of everybody there. And you have to be fair and fulfill the post that you are put in. So you are successors. Responsible, because what do we call the parliament? The parliament is considered as a place where the people elects who represents them. So these are presenters or representers of the whole public. And the presidents or the first responsible in the government or in the states is the representative of the whole states. Right? Is that clear? So he's not asked to do anything unless he has the permission to do that. He's not dividing the money or distributing something that is his own property. No. If it was his own property, he could do whatever he wants with it. But this is the treasury of the states. So he's not allowed to do anything unless he has the permission from the law, which is the Islamic law here, or from the public, which comes in things that there is an agreement between both of us that we give you the permission to do that. Right? Is that clear? With me, guys? Okay. Okay. فهذا رسول رب العالمين. And the Prophet Bukhari, by Allah, I don't give anybody anything, and I don't prevent anybody from anything. I'm only a distributor. Qasim, أنا Qasim, distributor. I put things where Allah ordered me to put it. This is whom? فهذا رسول رب العالمين قد أخبر أنه ليس المنع والعطاء بإرادته واختياره كما يفعل ذلك المالك الذي أبيح له التصرف في ماله وكما يفعل ذلك الملوك يعطون من أحبوا وإنما هو عبد الله يقسم المال بأمره فيضع حيث أمره الله تعالى. وهكذا قال رجل لعمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه: يا أمير المؤمنين، لو وسعت على نفسك في النفقة في من مال الله تعالى. فقال له عمر: أتدري ما مثلي ومثل هؤلاء؟ كمثل قوم كانوا في سفر فجمعوا منهم مالا وسلموه إلى واحد ينفقه عليهم، فهل يحل لذلك الرجل أن يستأثر عنهم من أموالهم؟ وحمل مرة إلى عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه مال عظيم من الخمس، فقال: إن قوما أدوا الأمانة في هذا الحاضرين، إنك أديت الأمانة إلى الله تعالى فأدوا إليك الأمانة ولو رتعت رتعوا. Very beautiful. So this says this is the messenger of the Lord of all creatures. He said that I don't prevent and I don't give except by the order of Allah. It's like what kings in the world used to do. They give who they want. They prevent. No. The Prophet ﷺ wasn't a king. He is a servant, a humble servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi wa sallam. Asked him to put. Like the story of Umar radiallahu anhu, somebody asked him, he said, "Oh, Amir al-Mu'mineen, why are you squeezing yourself like this? Take from the property and make yourself in a good post. Wear proper clothes. Why should you wear something that is torn and sewed?" And they said that Umar radiallahu anhu, his garment had 13 places sewed. Imagine somebody wearing a garment that is sewed here, sewed here, sewed here, and it's torn. He said to him, "You know what is the example of me and the whole people here? The whole Muslims. And we're talking about a state that comes from Tunisia to Afghanistan. Or let us say to Iran now." He said, "I'm like somebody who went in a journey with his friends. And he gave his friends, all of them gave him the money so that he can buy and sell and do everything which will make the journey a good journey. So instead of doing that, he started taking from that money for his own pleasure. He saw something beautiful, a beautiful thing, a beautiful bottle, a beautiful phone, etc. So he started buying for his pleasure. Would that be fair?" They said, "No, that's not fair." And Umar radiallahu tabaraka wa ta'ala anhu received a lot of money. So when he saw that money, he said, "Well, actually, people who gave this money until it reached to me here, these are really trustworthy guys." So one of the people there said to Umar radiallahu anhu, "Amir al-Mu'mineen, you know what? Trustworthy person, and you gave things to all whom they're owed to. Trustees fulfilled your trustees, and if you played and corrupted, they will play and corrupt. Corrupt, they corrupt. If you are just, they are going to be just. Because normally when a leader comes, he chooses his consultors, or he chooses his helpers from the same mentality and party that he believes it's the good and the best one. وينبغي أن يعرف أن أولي الأمر كالسوق. سبحان الله, I just said it. ما نفق فيه جلب إليه. وهكذا قال عمر بن عبد العزيز رضي الله عنه فإن نفق فيه الصدق والبر والعدل والأمانة جلب إليه ذلك، وإن نفق فيه الكذب والفجور والجور والخيانة جلب إليه ذلك. So he says, the market demands for things that are paid, that when they come to the market, they get bought. So you can't imagine a market that has things in it, and those things won't be sold in that place. The leaders are like that. If he feels that those kind of people don't fulfill his post, don't help him, he'll get rid of them. He will just get people that he feels that he's comfortable working with them. So that's why normally, if the leader is a nasty guy, he gets nasty guys with him. And if he's good, he searches for good guys to help him and consults him. المال من حله ويضعه في حقه ولا يمنعه من مستحقه. وكان علي بن أبي طالب رضي الله عنه إذا بلغوا أن بعض النواب ظلم قال اللهم إني لم آمرهم أن يظلموا خلقك أو يتركوا حقك. So he is ordered to, the governor is, or the and financial things from whom the right asks the law gives them the right to take it from them and put them in the place that they have to be in them. And he's not allowed to prevent them from whom deserves them. Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, he used to say, "Oh Allah, I didn't ask them to be unfair with people and to leave their rights. I didn't ask them to do that." One more, please. أصناف الأموال السلطانية, the kinds of the government's property. الأموال السلطانية التي أصلها في الكتاب والسنة ثلاثة أصناف: الغنيمة والصدقة والفيء. Financial things that are referred to the government according to the Quran and the Sunnah. The booty of the wars and the charities, and the booty that the enemy escaped and left it. So it's not, there are two kinds of booty: the ghanima, which you grab it from your enemy after any battle, and the fate is any money that the enemy escaped and went away and you took it from him. These are the three sources of money in the world, but in a new way. Great countries go to weak countries and force them to give them a lots of things, either isn't that kind of taking property from people? And it's kind of ghanima or fate, isn't it? It's a kind of ghanima or fate. But when they give it a beautiful name and make it in a way that is official, people don't see it as a booty or as something, as taking property of poor guys. So now the first thing is the booty, الغنيمة. فأما الغنيمة فهي المال المأخوذ من الكفار بالقتال. ذكرها الله سبحانه وتعالى في سورة الأنفال التي أنزلها الله في غزوة بدر. لأنها زيادة وسماها أنفالا لأنها زيادة في أموال المسلمين. فقال سبحانه وتعالى يسألونك عن أنفال الله والرسول إلى قوله واعلموا أنما غنمتم من شيء فأن لله خمسه وللرسول ذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل. الآية. The first type of these money is the booty, and it's any money that is taken from the kuffar, the non-believers, after winning them or gaining a battle with them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called it anfal, means extra money, because it is extra money on the property of Muslims. Where did Allah say that? He said in Surah the booties. So tell them that the booties are for Allah and His Messenger. So fear Allah and fix the relationship between you guys. And then He said in another verse, and you know that, be aware that what you had taken from your enemies as a booty, it's for Allah and it's for His Messenger. And for Allah and for His Messenger, and for the people who are from the family of the Prophet ﷺ, and the orphans and the needies, and one who is traveling and he got lost without any property with him. So he is called Ibn Sabil. Okay, is this clear? وقال في أثنائها فكلوا مما غنمتم حلالا طيبا واتقوا الله إن الله غفور رحيم. Eat from what you had taken from your enemies in the battles. It's legal, it's good, and fear Allah, because Allah is all forgiver, all merciful. وفي الصحيحين جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أعطيت خمسا لم يعطهن نبي قبلي نصرت بالرعب مسيرة الشهر وجعلت لي الأرض مسجدا وتربتها طهورا فأيما عبد أدركته الصلاة فليصلي وأحلت لي الغنائم ولم تحل لأحد قبلي وأعطيت الشفاعة وكان النبي يبعث إلى قوم خاصة وبعثت إلى الناس عامة. I had 5 things that no prophet before me had that. They hear that the Islamic army is coming, they start shivering from it. And all the land is a prayer place for me, and it's pure, yeah. So anybody that is anywhere in the night or in the morning, and he stops somewhere, he can pray wherever he wants. He doesn't have water, just put your hand on the stand or on the ground and just make tayammum. And the booties are legal for meat. And it wasn't like that before. It wasn't like that before. Well, the prophets used to be sent only to the nations. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بعثت بالسيف بين يدي الساعة حتى يعبد الله وحده وجعل رزقي تحت ظل رمحي وجعل الذل والصلاة على الخالق فهو منهم. By the hour, that means the judgment day, without any partners with them. My provision was put under my spirit. Who disobeys my orders humiliated. Who any nation, he is one of that nation. This hadith is in Muslim Imam Ahmad, narrated by Ibn Umar, and Bukhari mentioned it in his book. It's a hadith Hasan, it's narrated by Abu Dawud too. فالواجب في الغنيمة في الغنم تخميسه في الغنم تخميسه وصرف الخمس إلى ما ذكره الله تعالى وقسمه وقسمة الباقي بين الغانمين. وقال عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه: الغنيمة شهد الواقع.